Thank you for coming down. I think I've met most of you at different things. I'm Reverend Susie Idzik. I've been a member here, I don't know how long. I think it's 12 years. I don't know. But there we are. And my pronouns are they, them. And so I have a story for you today about a town, maybe nearby, maybe far away, about a time, maybe long ago, maybe not. And in this town, everybody loved each other. It was a fantastic town. The town took care of people. They had parades and parties and all these fun things, and everybody was very neighborly and took care of each other, and it was a beautiful, beautiful neighborly town. And one day, a god came down and walked through the middle of town. One side of the town said, "Oh my gosh, do you see him? Do you see how strong he is? Do you see how beautiful he is? Do you see that blue hat he's wearing? Oh, I feel so safe around him." And their jaws were on the ground, and they were just like, "Oh my." The other side of the town said, "Oh my, do you see her walking down here? Do you see how beautiful she is? Do you see how strong she is? I feel so safe around her. I feel so grounded. Look at that red hat she's wearing." And they were all just like mesmerized. And so the god walked through the town, and after both sides of town started talking, and they're like, "Did you see that? Did you see how beautiful he was?" And the other side's like, "What are you talking about? She didn't look like that at all." And they're like, "Did you see his blue hat?" And they're like, "What are you talking about? It was a red hat." And all of a sudden, the town started bickering, and they started fighting, and they started finger pointing, and they're going, "You're wrong, you're wrong." And it got real ugly. Before you knew it, the town, this beautiful town, built a wall right up the middle. You had your blue side, you had your red side, you had your man side, you had your woman side. It was ugly. They didn't talk to each other. They didn't get along. It was icky, this beautiful town. And then one day, the god came back. And the god said, "What has happened here?" And they all looked at them and said, I don't know. I mean, you came down and what's going on? And the god said, tell me what the story is. And one side said, "Well, you're a man, and we saw you, and you had this blue hat on, and blah, blah, blah." And the other side said, "You're a woman, and we saw you had this red hat on." And the god, they said, "Oh, look at that. I am neither of those. I'm somewhere else. I am just me, and I am showing up here to be with you." And they said, "What about the hat? What's going on there?" And they said, "Oh, well, that's interesting. I have a hat. On one side it's red, and one side it's blue." So the town, they kind of looked at each other, and they're like, "Oh, look what we've done here." Slowly, because change takes a while, they started to talk to each other. They kind of laughed about it. They were able to take the wall down, and the god, they stayed among them, and they were there to support them and be with them and be present, and just the town was able to grow again and to be together again. And so that's my story for you. What do you think? I know this. Yeah, there we are. Friends, let us take that energy of that beautiful song as we enter into a moment of prayer and meditation and reflection. Let's just take a few deep breaths together. It is good to be together today. And as we begin, I invite us to arrive together in a spirit of openness and shared humanity. In the Unitarian Universalist tradition and in most faith traditions, we hold that there is a spark of the sacred in every person, and that we are bound together in an interconnected web of existence. That truth calls us beyond separation and towards relationship, even and especially when we find ourselves in places of tension or hurt. There is a spaciousness available to us here, a widening of the heart that makes room for complexity, for truth-telling, for deep listening. And when we enter that space, even briefly, the need to defend or be right can soften, and something more life-giving can begin to emerge. We come into this moment not only as individuals, but as part of something larger, sharing a field of care, dignity, and possibility. Each voice matters. Each one of us matters. Each story carries meaning. And together, there is a potential to discover something that none of us could reach alone. So as we sit in a few moments of silence, I invite us to listen with curiosity, to speak with honesty, and to remain open to transformation, trusting that within this shared space, there is wisdom to guide us and compassion to hold us as we find our way forward together. A few moments of silence.
The ground shifts, sometimes slowly, sometimes like an earthquake, reminding us that the solidity we often love and seek is always an illusion. The crumbling dust of the desert plains, the moist fertility of farmlands, the eroding coastline of tidal shores, all are changing. Committees dissolve or are created, leaders retire or step away, ministers come and go, bylaws are amended. New experiences lead to new truths, which foster evolution. The natural course of life always pushing us towards greater understandings of what it means to be human. Everything about our existence points towards change, flexibility, and dynamic recreation. And it's hard because change involves loss. Can we hold the losses well while not holding ourselves back? The ground shifts, sometimes slowly, sometimes like an earthquake. Nothing is static.
So I was recently invited to a wedding by a young couple, very sweet. I logged onto the website to check out all the details and the dress code, and it said, for him, for her. The for her was, go with a floor-length or tea-length dress that makes you feel amazing. Light flowing fabrics like chiffon or satin are perfect for the season. Don't be afraid to play with color and pattern and texture. This is your time to shine. For him, it was equally prescriptive. Handy, huh? Unless a request like this sends your inner self spinning. Fears of not showing up in the correct attire. Fears of not playing the game correctly. That I won't fit in, or more importantly, that someone might discover just how uncomfortable I might feel in flowy fabric playing with color. Of course, I would have, figure out how to maneuver this appropriately. I always pull it off. I've been able to navigate that for forever, and that's not what I'm here to talk about today. I want to talk about those inner whirlings that have been in a place with me for my whole life, those whirlings that I didn't find a place for until the last few years. The whirling that spun me to the outer rings of friendship circles, family belonging, cultural connections. A place that I spun to of feeling other at all times. This is the story of how I came to realize at nearly 60 years old that I have always been non-binary. It's not to make a big statement, but to share my path of discovery, of discovering a piece of me that I didn't actually know was missing until I found it. I hope, honestly, that this story sparks in all of us a reminder that we always have more to learn about ourselves and about others. That it is never too late to discover pieces that we didn't even think were missing. So I was born the youngest of 4 kids. More importantly, I was born the youngest of 3 girls. It was my brother, the oldest, then my 2 older sisters, and then me. And my mom took such great pride in her 3 girls. I'm the child of the late 60s and 70s, and as we know, that was quite the time for fashion. We were all dressed in matching outfits, most of which my mom would make sitting up late at night. Picture flannel nightgowns that went all the way to the floor, came up to the neck with lace and elastic around the arms that was so tight that it hurt. And every year we would get these and have to wear them. Have to wear them. Picture big purple wool capes that we would wear with white tights in London. Picture brown bell-bottom corduroy pants that come up to your navel and polyester white turtlenecks. Clothing is a signal that says something about who we are, and it codes us in a way. I think we all know this to be true. And most of the pictures of my childhood will show both this fine fashion and me in tears. I did not have an emotionally easy childhood. I did not know how to fit in. I did not know how to belong. I did not know how to be seen. I did not know how to cure the longing, the hole that was created by the unknown that rested in my heart. I didn't know who I was, and I was very certain that no one else knew either. I was invisible. We moved a lot every 2 years, following my dad around as he climbed the corporate ladder. Being a corporate brat was a hard run for me. I would watch my brother and sisters blending in with each move, making friends, finding a sense of belonging. And I continually felt outside of things. I felt outside of my family, too. People often say, well, at least you had your family. But I felt outside of them. I went to middle school and high school out in the suburbs outside of New York City, and I struggled to belong, finding friends in a group of misfits and geeks, not even the nerds, the misfits and the geeks, the ones over there. I suppose I belonged there, too. I didn't know how to belong in my family. I didn't know how to authentically show up. And I shared this as a way of saying that I grew up not knowing myself because I didn't see myself in what was around me. I grew up looking, rarely finding models of how I was experiencing the world. And as a kid, having the identity as youngest of the 3 girls, I continually felt like I should be something other than what I felt. I didn't know how to be the girl I was supposed to be, so I faked it, and I really didn't quite make it. During those years, I spent a lot of time listening to Marlo Thomas's fantastic album, Free to Be You and Me. I hear ya. Those of you from those times or who have found it later may remember the classics, William wants a doll, William wants a doll, and Parents Are People. And when I was putting my thoughts together for today, I was like, oh, good, I should include these songs. I should include them. So I listened again and again to the manifestos on gender, songs and poems about how we are not locked into the gender we were born into, how boys and girls and men and women could swap tasks and still remain boys and girls and men and women. It was a significant influence on my young, budding feminist mind. There was a freedom that was revealed and has stuck with me. But in the midst of listening to the album over and over, singing along to every word over the last few weeks, it hit me that this is an album about feminism, which really fit that time perfectly. It's about girls being able to do everything that boys can do and men and women breaking gender roles. I am a strong feminist, as is my husband, as are my sons and my daughter, and I imagine most of you would probably identify the same. But being a feminist does not describe one's gender identity. It describes a point of justice and a point of equality. but it is not an internal identity. And I've been intrigued over the last few weeks about how feminism acted as a gate or a fence around my sense of misbelonging. I could say I was a feminist, and that acted as a way to establish myself outside of what I saw as traditional roles. But it was actually serving as a placeholder for my identity. But being a feminist and yearning for gender equality, which I still yearn for, is something really different than the gender binary. I was, as you can imagine, described as a tomboy growing up, and I know many women have had this experience. And my response would always be like, yes, but that's not quite it. The label tomboy has sort of a placeholder quality that one day some life event will happen and I would discover my inner femininity and I would come down the stairs finally with makeup on and a dress and settle into my proper role. We've all seen the movies a million times of this happening, and spoiler alert, it never happened for me. I have memories of binding my chest in early puberty as a prayer that I would not develop breasts. I didn't know what that meant. There was no context for that feeling in the 70s and 80s. But I knew I did not want to have breasts. I had no interest in having breasts and having that signal of womanhood. You don't always get what you wish for. I have memories of my whole life of flinching when someone would say she in a reference to me. I never knew there was an option. I just knew that it didn't fit me, that it made me feel invisible. And I felt vulnerable, and my reactions felt impossible in the world. I never told a soul until the last few years. I went to school in New Orleans in the early 80s, where sororities were a big deal, and the Southern way of femininity significantly clashed with how I navigated the world. I was fairly consistently told that I must wear makeup, must dress a certain way, must be more ladylike. Again, I was able to navigate it and make it across the line of social passing. But each comment, each whisper of demand that I perform according to someone else's perception of gender comfort was like a little eraser. It felt like, although I know it was not the intention, it felt like someone saying, the way you show up is not right. This is not how it is done. And my true self had to shrink and had to disappear a bit in order to navigate without causing conflict. I found my artist self in college, and I'm still a painter. And presenting as an artist, I was able to hang in more casual and creative circles. It gave me some breathing room to show up as me. And during all those years, I learned to weather the disappointment from the world, to weather the disappointment from my family when I did not perform in a ladylike way that they wanted me to. I learned how to breathe deeply, how to excuse myself to the bathroom for a quick cry, as I felt like again and again I was being shoved into a box that didn't fit me. I was asked to be someone who didn't exist, someone that made me so uncomfortable to be. I learned to suppress myself again and again, and I became a master at shutting my true self down so I could get along. I learned how to function well enough, but often without being invited or being able to show up as my true self. But let's be clear. I know how I look. I look like your average UU woman. My body does not present itself as someone who would describe themselves as non-binary. So when a server at a table calls me ma'am, or even worse, miss, we could discuss that, or any gendered language, I can't expect anything different. I say that I caucus with women, In a room, I will gravitate to where the women are, and after 60 years, I know how to run in women's circles, and it is a comfortable space and culture for me. I know how to contort myself just enough to find great moments of joys in those situations. But still, a quick comment about what every girl dreams of or a gender declaratives makes me feel outside of even those circles. So the gender binary says, plain and simple, there are two binary genders. That's it. You are either a man or a woman, or you are born a man or you were born a woman. And implicit in that messaging, as we are hearing from those in positions of power today, that is that there are specific behaviors that belong to men and behaviors that belong to women, to male and female. And to threaten that binary is to threaten all that people hold sacred. And I know, in this room, it's nothing new to us. We know. We all know how this goes. But that's the binary. You are one or you are the other. And as someone who describes themselves as non-binary, I choose a different way. It's not necessarily that I am more one or more another, like I have a slider that I crank up to be more feminine or more masculine, more female, more male. It's that I don't internally identify as female or male. Transgender folks are born into physical bodies that don't match their insides and their experience of how they are born to be in the world. And in some cases, when transitioning, they transition to the opposite side of the binary. Men will transition to women. Those born as women will transition to men, and the binary continues, all is good. Often trans women are seeking a feminization, and trans men are seeking a masculinization to match their insides. And of course, there are as many spaces in between that binary as there are people exploring their identity. And I don't choose either of those options. I choose a spot that doesn't have a target, it doesn't really have a destination. It feels vague at times, but it doesn't feel female or male. And there's not, for me, a lot of framework around being non-binary, because by definition, I am living outside of definition. My body shows up as it does, and at this phase in life, I choose to keep it as it is. If I had found this path many years ago in a different world, I would have made efforts to change my body to match how I felt on the insides. But that wasn't happening in the 80s. I didn't even know language about this. I didn't know that the dysphoria that I experienced, the sense of misfit, of not belonging, actually had a name and had a real quality. And what a relief that is. This congregation has played an important role in my discovery of this. I had taught the transgender inclusion in congregations course a couple times at the San Jose church, and I taught it here during the pandemic. I've always felt a kinship with trans folk, which makes a lot more sense to me now, and a deep respect for their journey and for their self-reflection and learning and their efforts to find a way for themselves to belong in the world. It's always felt comfortable and natural for me to be in pro-trans conversations, and I truly enjoy teaching that class. The last time I taught it, I think 2 summers ago, we discussed pronouns a lot, and you all were really fine. But I found myself getting more and more activated each session. For years, I had used the pronouns she and they. And many of you and many others out in the world would say, what's the deal there? Can you pick a lane? I was very clear on my response. And I would say something like, I was raised to be polite and not take up too much space. So while I resonate with they, I grew up with she, so I use she, they to make other people comfortable. My goodness, even thinking about that makes me so tired. That construction was how I built my whole life, contorting myself so I could possibly make everyone else comfortable. And I don't want to have the pronoun conversation here and now, But during that class, there was a lot of pushback against they, them pronouns. And I heard a voice whispering to me saying, don't let it go. Don't let them erase you. Don't let language and what may feel awkward for others erase you. And when I hear folks anywhere push back against they, them pronouns because it feels too hard, I automatically translate that to me, I am too hard. I am taking up too much space. I should go along to get along. And I don't want to feel that for the next 30 years. I was letting comments land within me, and I finally have chosen to not suppress myself and not to shut down. One day, after teaching that class, it was an instant, and I figured out I was feeling so poked because I was indeed non-binary. For many folks, the dysphoria they feel is about how their body looks, and often those who undergo surgery experience a deep, significant body dysphoria that they are remedying. They are trying to fix how they are seen and how they are showing up, and how that is in conflict with their inner selves. Discovering the dysphoria that I have lived with my whole life, discovering that it was indeed a dysphoria, has been a journey. It's about a social dysphoria, about being categorized as female, having assumptions made about me by someone else's perception. It's about being sorted one way or another, as we do being human. My sense of self had always included an underlying sense of wrongness about how I show up, that I didn't even know how to do a primal thing like being a woman. Discovering that I do indeed get to be myself, that I can take up space, that I do get to inconvenience folks with they, them pronouns, that I get to walk in the world as myself is a journey. I'm not trying to disappear into some weird non-space. Rather, I am trying to show up as me, as whole now. Even as I taught that transgender inclusion class again and again, I didn't see myself in that conversation. So when that realization hit me, the relief was almost euphoric. I know myself now in a deeper way than I did before, and what a gift to find more pieces of myself. So what does this mean? Ultimately, not that much. I've been growing my hair for the first time since I was 17. I know, it doesn't seem that way, but this is long, you guys. This is very long. I think I was trying to signal something to the world by having very short hair for 40 years. I don't know what will happen with that. It's a new world. Suddenly, my name's Susie, which I always experienced as coding so female, and I hated my whole life. Suddenly, it's okay. I kind of like it. My brother named me. It has a sweetness to it. That was a surprise. I told my husband, which I thought could be a thing, and it wasn't. His response was pretty much, I've always known who you are. So that was beautiful. Sorry, makes me tear up a little bit. I told my kids, some of them will use they, them pronouns, and some do not. That is fine. I think that's a big ask. And I will say, when someone uses they, them, it takes me a second to realize they're talking about me still after 60 years of conditioning. But then my heart flutters a little bit. I feel deeply seen. I feel deeply held. And after 60 years, it's hard to change. I misgender myself all the time. So who am I to judge? So this has just been my experience, and only my experience, of figuring this out pretty late. I know there are 5-year-olds, 7-year-olds, 15-year-olds, 30-year-olds. I know many of you have children wrestling with this. And I hope this points somewhere to what they could possibly be feeling. Last weekend, Greg and I went to a show at the Greek Theater in Berkeley, and I'm not exaggerating, when there may have been 4 people close to our age, maybe. We were really pushing it. But watching these folks enter into this space was amazing. The presentations, the varieties, the way people showed up, the choices they made. We must put our gender readers away. I can only assume how they would describe themselves. They played with clothing, they played with presentation. It is a different world, and it is a beautiful world. What a time to be alive. And that honestly is all I could see from the outside. And it brings me deep hope. It brings me hope that this playfulness, this demand to take up space, this curiosity, this creativity with self, how I wish I was in these days as a youth. I hope we can all see these presentations as a way of people showing up in their wholeness, and we can take their journey to heart. To be clear, my experience is only my experience and happened for me very late in life. It would be very different if I was 12, if I was 20, if I was 30. I hope we make space for everybody on a journey. The surprise in me for this, the surprise in this for me, which is perhaps the gift of discovering it so late in life, is that this is, at this point, a discovery for me and not for anyone else. This is about me getting to experience a wholeness that I've never felt because of a new puzzle piece that I didn't know was missing. It's about I get to reframe the stories of my life of feeling outside, of feeling othered, and feeling disconnected. I get to reframe those now. This journey has brought me to a place of integration, a connection to my authentic self. And I do wonder what I get to figure out in the next decades. We'll find out. Thank you.